I'm going to quickly walk through and explain these Nishijin Model A machines. They're almost identical, there's just a couple slight variances. First of all, how do you know if you have a Nishijin Model A? Nishijin made tons of machines. We've genericized them into three models, Model A, B, and C. One way to tell it's a Model A is this bottom receiving tray is almost all the way to the very bottom of the machine. It's just like maybe an inch off the ground. The second way is the Model A's have a window right here where you can look in and see the jackpot seesaw. The third way is the play field area is 16 by 18 inches. On the Model B's it's 16 by 16 and same for the Model C's. This is the older of the two models with a slight variance being the shooter assembly back behind the door. But before we get there, we've got a chrome post here. This is your finger rest bar. You put your finger up against it while you take your thumb and you pull down on the flipper to shoot. You've got a receiving tray. You've got an ashtray that flips forward to empty out your ashes. Your play tray here. If you have too many balls in your play tray, if you just slide this lever over to the left, the balls will flow from here into your receiving tray. Then you can scoop them out into a bucket and refill the back of your machine. If the balls don't flow from here to here, you might want to try a couple things. One, take your finger and just slide this way to loosen the weight of the balls to get them to flow. You may also have to pull on your flipper at the same time you're doing that. This model is virtually identical, except you can see a round sticker in here. This is called a weight sign. Whenever that sign drops down, it's telling you that you need to refill the balls in the back of your machine. And there's different decorations, different types of signs. Some of them are rectangular, some of them are circular like this. But it pivots out of the way like so. Also, when this sign is down, there is actually a bar in front blocking the balls from going into the shooter assembly. There's also a bar on the other model. There's just no sign on the other model. So typically on the A's, you have one lens up here, which when this, there's a light in here. When it comes on, that means you need to add balls to the back of the machine. And you typically have a light back behind here that'll flash when you get a jackpot. These two plastic lenses look like they should have lights there, but they don't. They're just for decoration. The play fields will all different. You may have different numbers of tulips or pockets. The main attraction will be different. The background might have different designs on it, but they pretty much all operate the same. The ball will ping down past the nails, the spinners will redirect the flow of balls, and you're trying to get it to go into the jackpots. There'll be some kind of bumper over here. Somewhere along here, the ball will bounce off of that. On older machines, the bumpers are rotted and are crumbling, and you need to take those off and replace them with a fresh bumper. And then right here is where the balls will, if you don't get in a jackpot, they'll roll out of here and they'll roll into what's called the recycler tray. And what's great about these Model A's is that you don't have to refill them that often because unlike like the Model B's, the balls drop down into a bucket and you have to go back and pick up the bucket and refill the top. The balls go into the recycler tray, and that recycler tray is what feeds the jackpots where you get the bonus. Now in Japan, these were mounted in the walls of pachinko parlors, and the way an attendant would service them is they would use a key to open the lock, and then they could swing the whole machine open, and that would allow them to service it. There are no keys for these machines. The casinos, obviously, when they got rid of the machines, they kept the keys. So you really don't need them for home use because you can just turn the machine around and get to the back of it. If you do mount it in the wall, I'll show you how you can disable this lock and still use your machine. The other thing they would do is when they were going to service the machine, before they opened it, there'd be either one or two spots on the side where they could put a pin in, and if they put it in, what it would do is it empty all the balls out of the machine, because if it had 1,200 or 1,300 balls in it, it could be real heavy. So before they service it, they might push this. You don't need this. I'll show you how to empty the balls from the back of the machine. Now the machine playfield usually has plexiglass or glass over it, and to get to the glass you actually have to open this chrome playfield door, and the way you do that is turn the machine around, and there is a loop right here that you can stick your finger in or underneath and lift up, and when you do, it pops open that playfield door. Now that door has two tracks in it. One track closest to the playfield, you have to have something in. It can either be glass or plexiglass. A lot of people like glass because it sounds really neat when the balls bounce off of it. It's also easy to clean. If you're worried about safety, I wonder if about the glass breaking from maybe kids throwing toys or something, you can just put in plexiglass in that back area. Or you could have real glass there, and in the front track put plexiglass. That way if they threw something, it'd hit the plexiglass and not the real glass. With the playfield door open, I'm going to show you how to open the play tray door, this chrome door here. You may need to open it in case there's a ball jam, if kids put something in here that shouldn't be here, carpet fuzz or other stuff, and balls aren't flowing through. What you do is there is a latch right here in the corner, and you push down that latch, and as you're pushing, I usually like to grab the play tray and you'll swing it open to the right. And that will give you access to the shooter assembly here. I'll zoom in and show you. On this model, the shooter assembly is actually attached to the machine. On the other model, it's attached to the back of the door. This is just a close-up of the play tray door latch that you push down. Teeth go into these two slots and hook on to that part. Okay, here's the shooter assembly. The first thing I want to talk about is this little metal here. This little metal, it's on a pole here, and it pivots up and down. I can lift it up and down. And right now it's down, and it'll block the flow of balls from your play tray into the shooter assembly, so it can't load balls into the shooter lane. That metal is very soft, and if folks bend it, it might be bent to where it's not moving up and down, or it's not blocking the flow properly, that lane properly. What I want to point out over here, there is a pole that's sticking through from the back. It goes all the way through the back. It attaches to a rod that goes all the way up to the top of the machine to where your supply tray is. And if your supply tray is low on balls, it drops this whole part down. Now I'm going to act like I'm adding balls, and when I do, you see it lifting that part up. So that's normal operation. Now with it up, I don't have any balls with me, I'll have to get that in a minute. So this here is a door, and it's got two catches over here on the corners, and so you can gently pry it off. It pivots on some plastic posts over here. You'll want to be real careful with it because there aren't any replacements for this, so as you're prying it open, so if it's feeling like it's jamming, just take your time, inspect it closely, but it should pop off. It's hard to do when you're not right in front of it. I'm trying to do it on the side. Okay, this one also had a catch right here across the top that I pulled up. So now I can swing this open. It's starting to stick right there, so I just want to there we go. Take my time, swing it all the way open. Now I have access, and if there's any carpet fuzz or anything there, I can get that out. Now there might be three different versions of shooter assemblies like this. Actually, the assembly itself is almost exactly the same, but the ball load levers in back are slightly different. They're right behind this clear plastic. You could take it off with a screw here and a screw here and pull it out and get to those levers, but you really don't need to. But I'm going to go ahead and pull down the flipper, and as I do, there is a piece of plastic right here that's pivoting. And also in the background you can kind of see a short dark piece. That's a spring. We'll see a close-up of that in a minute. But that is the piston that will launch the ball onto the playfield. I'll go ahead and drop one in the shooter lane. And I'll shoot it. And it just launched it out with the door open. I'm going to go ahead and close this back. Again, taking my time. I feel it jam. I just work it till it's smooth. And then snap it closed. Now I'm going to lift up on this and I'll drop a ball in. And you saw it roll down that part. Okay, so we have 2 balls here waiting to be loaded into the lane and one here waiting to make the turn. So as I pull down on the flipper and when I let go, it popped one up into the shooter lane. So now one is ready to be shot. And then we have 2 more waiting here. So if I shoot again, okay, that's how that operates. I'm going to close these and then we'll turn it around and look at the back, look at the machine from the back. So I'm going to pull this, and as you close it you may have to lift up a little bit and then push down on this latch, get it nice and snug. Then you pull your playfield door over. And there are 2 latches here, so what I usually like to do is I like to squeeze at the same time. Make sure that's snug. You can even pull down on that loop to make sure it's tight.